to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic Reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to devote my life to. That's okay.
It means something. It means something.
And they got away.
You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic Reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It is a science place. It is a scientific fact that we are all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Episode 350. 350 episodes of this show. Can you believe it? I can barely believe it. I'm on this show. That's a lot. It's a good amount. I couldn't be happier tonight to talk to a two-time returning guest, in a moment, of course, Mr. Eugene S. Robinson, who has a great record with Oxbow called Love's Holiday. Definitely one of my favorites of the year. There's a new book coming out shortly in Feral House, A Walk Across Dirty Water and Straighten a Murderer's Row. And excited to talk about all that with him. And whatever else comes to mind, because he's just one of those guys. He's one of those guys, you know, who's got a Substack. It's always popping off with something interesting and cool in there. Game recognized game, I would dare say. So before any of that, welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I am your host, Conan Neutron. I'm a rock and roll lifer that's been touring and recording for 23 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. This is episode 350. If this is your first time listening to the show, archives that are available for free, no ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at ProtonicReversal.com. However, if you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at Patreon.com/Protonic Reversal will gladly achieve that goal, gladly. And if you like the show, or even just a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, share it around on the internet, and even leave a review. All that helps people discover the show, beat back the almighty algorithmic overlords, and it's just a darn nice thing to do. So there you go. And yeah, very excited. Love's Holiday. It's been a hot minute waiting for that one. Great record, worth the wait. We'll be going through that with Eugene. And a book, Walk Across Dirty Water and Straight into Murderer's Row. Fantastic. Like I said, game recognized game. Welcome back to the show, Eugene. Appreciate you.
Hey, man. Yeah, nice to have. It's been a long while.
It has. And I'm trying to remember if you mentioned, because Love's Holiday is something you were working on for a bit. I'm trying to remember if you actually had, like, if you had it conceived and started when last time we talked, because I know I can't remember. It's been too long. I mean, I guess I could have listened to it.
We never stopped working, but the format, as it exists is if we talk more than 50% about Love's Holiday or Oxbow stuff, we do all the interviews together. Much like right. Lord Dunsany's Three Sailors Gambit. So if we talk about 51% of the memoir and 49% Love's Holiday, I can talk about Love's Holiday. But if you cross the 50% mark, then we got to pull the rest of the.
Got to bring the rest of the dudes in. Although honestly, I've been thinking about it. I would love to have Nico on. I mean, the rest of the guys too. But like, it's kind of one of those things where, I mean, they're all pretty fascinating fellows. But I will respect the ratio, as they say in the
yes,
news.
Good. So now that that's been established, yes, we are in a constant state of, like, people keep saying, oh, it was 10 years, from Narcotic Story to Thin and Black Duke.
Right.
We were working those entire 10 years,
Yeah.
I mean, it was not like we're sitting around trying to think we were writing the songs, endlessly rehearsing sections of songs, creating the songs, in between maybe trying to find a label, because Hydra had died after Narcotic Story. and in fact only came back. One of the reasons they came back was Aaron loved Thin Black Duke so much. He's like, okay, let's try something new. Just 4 bands, 4 records. We'll try that. And one of the bands ruined it somehow, put him off something. I don't know what happened, but he said, okay, well, we'll put this record out and then we're done with Hydra.
Well,
so that
and a lot of people don't realize that too, that he
grace.
basically,
But
he was basically making
we
an
work,
exception.
With business constantly. Are you still
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, I'm still here. You kind of cut out for a second there, and I thought it was a lull, but it wasn't. Yeah, that was, he made basically a special exception for Oxbow, and for the, let's just say, methodical pace that y'all work at.
Yeah, I mean, it's, look, if you're in a band, you're either dancing to the tune established by a label who has a need for you to fill some sort of pump in order to please an audience of, but I mean, we don't have a sense of anything. We don't have a sense of listeners, viewers, fans, fanatics. I mean, every time we get a label, it's a fight to get a label. So we just kind of have gotten used to being these real outlying outsiders who think that largely and maybe honestly believe that nobody really cares whether we live or die. So we just got to get about the business of making the music that we like on the schedule that we like. So,
which you're always going to be a success to a certain degree, maybe not financially, if you are doing that, right? You're making something worthwhile and you're taking the time to do it.
Well, listen, let me look, and I don't mean this as a knock. And I'm sure she's a fine woman. Taylor Swift has sold Michael Jackson-esque numbers. Now, you might not like Michael Jackson, you might not care for his music, but if you in passing on the sidewalk hear me sing beat it, you go,
you know what that is. Yeah, everyone knows what that is.
Yeah. I can't name a single Taylor Swift song. I can't identify her voice between Duo Lipo and Baby Rexa and all these. I have no idea. And she sold Michael Jackson-esque numbers. I have no sense memory or anything connected to Taylor Swift. I have no idea. I would venture a guess that the people who like the kind of music we like, you can't, even if you're not a fan of Oxbow, you have a general idea of what we sound like. You might have even heard some songs. So in that instance, I feel like we're doing better than Taylor Swift.
Well, because there's a difference between listeners and engaged listeners as well. People are just listening to it because it's a thing that I hear this at the grocery store and it seems to be okay, which is
I don't understand seeking. I mean, I guess you seek her out because you have an emotional need to do so because of what she represents to you, which is the same way we choose people that we want to fuck. I guess it's as good as as good as anything else. I'm with this person because of what they represent to me. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And it's interesting too that, and I always talk about on this show about how I feel like I enjoy the movie, but Almost Famous, I think, poisoned an entire generation for what they think bands should be.
Yeah, well, that's constant and continual, man. If you've had a straight job and you've had a band, you know that life was a lot better before Google and the internet. When people would say, "What did you do this weekend?" And you could go, "Oh, I was gardening." And now people find out you're in a band in a work environment, and they're like, their ideas about what happens is just it's terrible. It's like
it's like saw some pictures. Oh, did you? Okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah, or the tired old Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, trashing hotel rooms, getting drunk and getting high and screwing groupies or whatever. It's not. I mean, if you've actually been on long tours on our level, it's a lot of work.
Sounds exhausting. Yeah,
it is. It's actually exhausting. It is. It's no. Like the line from Spinal Tap. No sex and drugs for Ian. You're getting up at 6 a.m, sleeping in hotels, worrying about your stuff getting jacked, and then getting to another smoky club where people are, either happy to see you or not happy at all to see you. So.
Well, and there aren't those kinds of stories out there, especially not for a long-lived band that is basically focused on making something uncompromising and connecting with the people that it's for. But there's no. I mean, if a Taylor Swift Oxbow tour would actually be pretty awesome in my mind, but I don't expect it's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, that would be there
would be no upside for her for sure.
No, it would basically just be like rolling the bones, man. Let's do it as quickly as possible. Miley Cyrus would probably be the better candidate for that. I think she might. She'd
have to wake up one day somebody was telling me that she's had weird culty stuff, and I was like, now she's infinitely more interesting to me.
Sure.
I don't know what kind of weird culty stuff she's into, but it might include an outsized interest in Oxbow. Who knows?
There's a lot on this record. So first of all, it's called Love's Miracle. That's not an accidental title, right?
It's called Love's Holiday.
Oh, sorry, Love's Holiday. I'm thinking of the Queen record.
Yeah,
this is where I do a take two if it wasn't live, so I look like a jackass.
Right,
But you know,
right,
whatever.
right.
It's my choice. Sorry, Love's Holiday. So I read something that like these are all basically more or less love songs, in some capacity or fashion. Is that a hyperbole or not?
Well, I clearly I've considered all of our songs love songs. A song like The Stabbing Hand, I could see people being confused with that being a love song, or Burn, but I guess I wonder what people thought I was singing about when I was singing, I wish against want that both of you die. I mean,
right.
Maybe you could make the confusion that I would be talking like the Black Flag record that got damaged, where the record label executive said, I found it to be a very anti-parent record.
Right.
But I don't think I've written a single song about my parents. So ever, even in Whipping Boy days. So this is, but this is, you just get tired. Like we did the Thin Black Book as a
I have that
companion
upstairs.
to the Thin Black Duke.
I was going to bring
really
it downstairs
rare.
to show it off to the video, and I completely forgot it upstairs because I was watching our president get frog marched into jail. Ex-president, I should say. Ex-president, yeah, sorry. Which was a good reason for forgetting a visual gag, but it's an incredible document for a really heavy album. And that's another thing that's for the people that it's for, to a certain degree, right? I mean, it's sort of like not everyone's going to want a physical article of anything, let alone reading material that comes along with it, right?
Well, we just got tired. We got tired of people not understanding. In essence, what they were doing is writing their reviews of the new record based on their reviews of the old record.
Right.
So it's like if your reference point or other reviews, then it's not going to be successful. So we figured to create a pause, we would do the book. So we did the book. In this instance, what we've done instead of a book is a video for every song, right? So
which is an ambitious undertaking, but for any band. But these are all
maybe we've got really cool people that like just want to help out and do cool stuff with us. So it's been working out. I think we have one debuted yesterday.
Right.
The night the room started burning, and then I think we have one more in the can that's done, and then we have two that are being finished now. So we will have the full complement before the end of the year.
That's fantastic. I mean, and believe me, a lot of bands have said that they're going to do that, and they don't, or they fall short, or something happens, or whatever. So it is an incredible accomplishment.
Well, we sometimes do that. We still have not delivered on the Thin Black Duke gold leafed special copy thing, hand done, etched and engraved, and it seemed to be hung up on how to create a hasp that would keep it closed, but not destroy the record inside or outside. We have engineers in the band, and they weren't able to figure it out. So usually, I mean, it's I pushed as hard as I could for it, and it just became a design nightmare. So, and then there's also the Narcotic Story movie. Unfortunately, the guy who was directing it was also partially the guy who the story, and then we lost our dailies, and then it was just like, we'll get back to it when we're rich.
Well, exactly. Yeah, when you can have someone exhume the contents and do data recovery or something.
Yeah. That guy's out of a mental institution now, doing quite well. So
good for him. That's awesome.
Yep. I just haven't brought it up again. So,
how do you feel about the concept of the music video, like in the year 2023, where we're talking right now? How do you feel about it?
Well, the way we did it, I enjoyed quite a bit. We send them the lyrics.
Yep.
Of all the lyrics, the record title, and just the song that they were on, and said, what What do you think?
Right.
Was it? What do you think?
To just have them
they
just
came back
interpret it.
with yeah, and one of my favorites is for one that hasn't come out yet, for Gunnel, and it's like it's kind of wonderful when somebody just embraces deeply, like figures out by hook or crook or just sheer genius what the heart is, what the song is about. So
Oh, really?
it was
Okay,
really
cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's all of them have a place in my heart, especially now 1,000 hours.
Yeah.
Mostly because I thought I was going to die like 3 days before, so it has a special resonance for me. I had some surgery, and ever since Warhol, I'm not trusting surgery, but then even
Deep
that,
cut.
it was at Druid Falls, and I had to hike down a road that had washed out because we had these terrible rainstorms.
Yeah.
And I have this big leg brace on, and I got crutches, and the road was falling out, and it was dark, and so it's, and then the kind of emotional impact of the song, as we found this bombed out house that used to be the place where Dizzy Gillespie used to hang out when he was here on tour, but has fallen into great disrepair. It was just it was an emotionally perfect moment. So it's nice to be able to catch aspects of it on video.
To just get it, yeah. I wonder if it might be worth our time, and this is something I do with some folks when they come on. I don't think I was doing the last time you were on, but just go through each of the songs one by one, and if you can give some
actually
thoughts
that's
on it, maybe,
that's pushing us very close to talking too much about
is that
Oxbow without the band.
51% territory?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. I mean,
fine.
because my understanding was that we'd be talking mostly about the memoir. So I don't, I mean,
I'm trying to split both and both.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But a song by song breakdown. I mean, for example, if you've read if you've read any of the press attached to it, like what drove Nico in writing the music for this stuff was not the same thing at all that drove me, right? Eros is what drove me. Nico was writing these songs for his infant children and his departed parents.
Yeah.
So musically, his take and approach is just almost diametrically opposed to, unless he's got sexy feelings about his dying and dead parents. I could be wrong. I assume not. So in other words, to do a song by song rendering and do it justice, you got to have us all in.
No, that's fair. I respect that, and maybe I can set something up another time for that. I just think,
but I go on and on about Buñuel. We got a double album coming out in May of next year, as well as tours on that, and of course, on October 10th, the memoir is out. So.
Right, and I want to talk about the memoir. I know that somebody chimed in about Buñuel and when I announced the show, and they were excited. There was
I saw that.
new stuff coming.
I saw that.
Yeah. That's always nice. It's always
Mansitude is the name of the record, and we got a great label lined up in Italy, and I think we're very close to finishing a deal with an American partner, which they'll be,
really,
there's
that's lovely.
A press release that'll come out. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, North American apartment last time was Profound Lore.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it will not be Profound Lore this time around, but it is not announced yet. And then, of course, there's going to be a book tour, either coincidental to all of Oxbow shows or the Buñuel shows, or separate. But I intend to, at this point, I'm all in on the memoir in terms of doing shows to get people to pay attention to it. And I've finally gotten spoken word shows to a place where I don't hate them, which I did for a long time, though I continued doing it. And it was so mysterious to me that I hated it so much that I kept changing it, like getting rid of what I hated about it. And then finally I got to where I said, well, what do they need and what do I need to be fulfilled in this regard? And I finally said, it's like we pull up a bar stool next to each other, and the next hour, that's what it is. So I'm not going to read from a book that you could read yourselves. I'm going to proceed as though you just asked me, so what's your deal? And boom, we're into the book. And I mean, the book covers birth until the creation of Oxbow. So for those real Oxbow completists, like you want to know where the whole lyrical overlay came. You will have no more questions about why I am the way I am after reading the memoir.
Sure.
It should explain a lot to you.
I remember there's one time, this is years back in SF, Ian MacKay did a thing at I think it was a Jewish Cultural Center. He was giving a talk, but he basically was just like, all right, anyone got any questions? And like, first question, like 25 minutes, right? And it was amazing. Whatever he talked about, fantastic. He's a rock on tour, like it's entertaining. There's a beginning, middle, and an end. All of the things that you're looking for in a story.
Well, I did the peregrinations I went through at first. I was like, okay, I'm gonna read. Nah, I don't like that. And then I said that I'm gonna act it out, which is that's kind of weird. I'm not the theater kid now. I don't want to do that. And then I started telling stories that were tangential to it. And then after one tour, I mean, I've done like 8 tours for books, either the fight book or the novel. Yeah. And then I was like, well, the stories are trending toward. See what I'm doing? I have to resist the temptation where you stand behind a mic to make yourself appealing. I'm not a fucking stand-up comedian, and I'm not out to rehabilitate any public image. So that one tour, like all the stories, like I'm the hero of all these stories. And there's a difference between being a hero of the stories and the center of the story. So with the memoir, I had to constantly focus on, you know what? This is going to hurt some people's feelings, and it should also include me, whose feelings is going to hurt. So what do they say? Warts and all, I had to, insofar as possible, actually deliver on that instead of doing the cheese ball thing, which is I'm in front of a mic. Hey, I'm a monkey. Watch me entertain you. And I'm just I don't do. So
do Freebird, yeah, exactly. the Freebird of the book.
Yeah, I tried. I've been trying to write primers for people who haven't seen Oxbow, for a while in the Substack, and then I just did a piece in Decibel because I don't really want to spend the next 3 months beating people up at shows. I really don't. And I find myself wanting to trend toward what Nina Simone did, which is if you make life difficult for me on stage, I get paid one way or the other. I'll just leave. I just leave, I don't, I mean, I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. Fighting with people who don't train is really boring for me. So keep in mind, I'm not talking about this stuff for fun, but if you throw a lit cigarette at me or punch me in the nuts, you're going to get a reaction, and I don't want to be in that situation where, I'm so easily manipulated into giving that reaction. So I'll just leave,
I'm glad you mentioned the Substack because it's one of the, I think, 3 that I read out of an ocean of content. We'll just charitably say content and leave it there. I think it's very entertaining. I think it's very readable, which one would imagine would be the goal for writing something. But I like the different kinds of topics that are tackled, some of which are, with the events of the day or the week, and some of which are certainly more personal. Did you find that to be a distraction while writing the book, even though it's from a different era, or was it different?
No, they work in different ways. The memoir is what is it, longitudinal, whereas a Substack is latitudinal, right? I mean, it's usually what's obsessed me the week prior, and so far, I mean, the week is not over, but going into Thursday, what's obsessing me is, the rebirth of the insane MAGA fan, where and I have friends who are insane MAGA fans, and they are enlivened this week, I guess, since last night, because and they put money on it. They've actually bet me real money, and they really in a scenario that they're willing to bet money on. What they're saying is, Trump is not going to jail, will not be convicted. That's one and the same. He will win the presidency, and he will pardon himself and all of his friends. They put actual real money behind this. I said, what about the fact that he's not polling any kind of voting with independents over 46%, and you need over 42% to actually win? And they go, lies. And okay, all right.
But that's the thing with confirmation bias.
And these are
right. I mean, it's like if you only talk to people that believe exactly like what you believe, then you only get results like that. So I mean, and I'm not saying cross-pollination is the answer, but I mean, like,
but I'm trying to go macro on this, and like, I'm not getting caught up in the internet weeds of, I'm not going to point by point. I just actually don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening. There are too many.
You can leave that to the other Eugene Robinson, which
but I mean, my obsession and my paranoia connected to it has to do with, like, it's like Topo Gigio with all the spinning plates. He's just got. There's just too much. You can't, like with Hitler, you can't fight multi-front battles and expect to win them all. Your percentage is
Let's talk about the book, which, if you're watching the YouTube, I just threw it up on the screen here. First of all, evocative title. You're always good with the titling. It always catches the attention.
Yeah, I wanted to do something shorter, but even then, I was going to do, Walk Across Dirty Water and Into Murderer's Row, but somehow I had a dream, and straight was in it, so I had to put it with a long title. So.
And that's got that. It's what action. It's an action word, right?
Yeah,
so
you go
straight into murderer's row.
Right.
Do not pass go. Do not.
Yeah, but for action words, I should have put some gerunds in there, but I did not do that either. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
It's cool. So this is your playing in punk bands, touring the world in the 80s. Like, do you find you're at a different place now, obviously, than you were then, right? Did you find that like the recall needed you to was it just right there? Did you have to lean on anyone to kind of be like, hey, what was that time with the thing and the stuff,
Yeah, most of the sex stories I had to have confirmation, and those were like interesting rabbit holes. It's like, don't you remember I said a Chelsea hotel and I took all that acid, and then Ad Rock was there, and then it's like, and I can't. This is perfectly entertaining, but I just can't. I can't weave it back into the story. So
right.
But no, I mean, listen. In the past 3 years, I've read Gore Vidal's Palimpsest.
Oh, good. That's a good one. Yeah.
It's a good one. I've read Harley's Life of My Own, Story of a Chromac, Roger Miret's Agnostic Front. I've read Nancy Burrell's, but I'm not going to hold your coat, about Boston hardcore.
Yeah.
And then I've read, so inside the hardcore fence, outside the hardcore fence, the Rollins' old Get in the Van. And what I decided that was different about all these, and what I would do, what I wanted to very specifically do, is to I don't want to write to the scene, right? I mean, I didn't get into punk rock until 1977. I was 15 years old in 1977. So there was already some stuff that happened that made me, primed for being somebody who was compelled by hardcore or punk rock when it happened.
Sure,
and I thought, and this is what the people at Feral House, because I resisted this for a long time, because I started thinking, there's no way I can write this and not hurt people's feelings, right? Yeah. And she said, Adam Parfrey had asked me for years to do it. So you got to do it. And I was like, I just couldn't figure out, like, I don't need exes figuring out I cheated on them through reading a fucking memoir, right?
Woof. Yeah.
Or alternatively, I don't need angry husbands knowing I slept with their wives. I don't need my kids reading about, this depredations. And Adam was like, come on, you could do it. And he died. And Christina said, I'm going to fly out to San Francisco, and I'm going to take you to dinner. I'm going to talk about it. And she said, look, nobody cares about your sex life. I was like, okay, perfect. She goes, and we don't have 600 pages to work with. So let's see if we can compartmentalize this, into something that is palatable. And so I said, what about birth through, the creation of Oxbow? And, informally, I call that the moment I lost my mind, right? There was a lot of heavy stuff that went into creating Oxbow, which I talk up right up to the creation of Oxbow. And then after that, all the stuff that happened, I don't have to write about until I figure out how to sell it, so I'm not getting attacked when I go to different places. So that's what we did. And, all the stuff with Ginsberg, start with LaVey, John Wayne Gacy, Charles Manson, all that stuff happened before the creation of Oxbow. Bill Cosby, before the Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Gregory Corso, Lydia Lunch, all that stuff happened before the creation of Oxbow. Dead Kennedys, Klaus Flora, Fear, riots at East LA, John Messiah's getting killed by the cops in Santa Monica. All that stuff. There was a lot of stuff that happened before the creation of Oxbow. So, and Whipping Boy, going our first tour with Minor Threat, and there was a lot of stuff that in and around the scene that was sort of compelling.
And there's a lot of things too that obviously things things change with time as far as reactions to historical events, like saying Bill Cosby now versus saying Bill Cosby, 20 years ago.
Or the fact that I was a disco dance instructor. Like people like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Or that I was hanging out at Studio 54, which, all that was Xenon, New York, Studio 54, man.
Yeah.
I go through the names of the discos I used to hang out at, and I could smell them. They live for me. And as I got older, of course, I realized, oh, that's cocaine I'm smelling.
Right.
Cocaine and Aramis. But so there's a lot of New York in the 70s when all those guys were getting back from Vietnam and changing the tone and the timbre of street culture when it became dangerous. Like, it's a fantasy now to people who live in New York, but you watch Taxi Driver, and that which was filmed a lot around my high school, and you see this is what I was dealing with on my way to dealing with reading, writing, and arithmetic well before I got to Stanford.
Wasn't no Disneyland, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure not. For sure not.
Actual mean streets.
Yeah,
not just the movie.
Yeah.
By the way, as an aside, I decided to look up the IMDb for Leonard Part 6. 2.1 out of 10.
Oh, that's high. Oh, that's high. My wife had not seen it, and I rewatched it. We rewatched it about a month ago, and it was hallucinatorily bad. I mean, still, but it was so bad. It was weirdly great because it was so bad.
Yeah. Well, it contains a certain degree of just like, wow, this is like a shining jewel of whatever this is, man. This is.
But you don't even have any excuse. You can't. If it was made in the 60s, you can go, well, maybe they smoked a lot of weed, or take a 80s or 70s, 80s. There was a lot of coke. 80s would be crack. There was no excuse for this. There was just. I guess this was the first chink in the armor that maybe, Mr. Jello Brand Gelatin Pop was not all he was cracked up to be. So, and I told people that after working with him on it. They're like, oh, you worked with Bill Cosby? I was like, great. I go, he sucks. I didn't like him. him.
Yeah. Well, turns out you're a good judge of character.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also like, what's the excuse, right? I mean, like, because if you look at like, okay, Melvin Van Peebles made Sweetback for like, I don't know, like $40,000 or something.
Yeah.
And basically against everybody. And now, granted, it kind of looks like, it cost $40,000, but I mean, respect.
The best thing about that movie is the fucking title, and the legend that the legend around it. If you actually watch that movie sucks.
It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah. Van Peebles. I would take Blackula any day over that shit, But you had a lot of like, his name keeps appearing. I rewatch Clute and some of these Panic in Needle Park and Godfather, and a famous black photographer did all the cinematography on the Godfather.
I used to know this. Frack, man. Okay, I know what you're talking about, but it's almost like that movie is. What do they call it? Badass, the one his son did. That's like about the making of that movie. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually
Willis.
Cool.
Isn't it Willis?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up here.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a film, not great.
Yeah.
But it's also like, look at what he had to do with it, and he was fighting against the entire system to even make it.
Yeah, and it was, a great. I mean, it was a genius thing. He probably made him some money, got him laid, and that's all you can hope for. I guess,
that's on camera. We know that. Yeah,
Except then, can anything make up for foisting Mario Van Peebles on us? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
well.
I mean, it's like at one point, in the book, Farrell was like, "Hey, you want to release an excerpt to the press, and we can get some quotes? How about I send?" And there's a famous rock and roll guy mentioned in the book who tried to murder me, and she said, "You want to? Maybe we should send this to him. He might." I go, "Don't do that. Don't do that now." This guy's a billionaire and has lawyers. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than to have some have the printer be his printing press seized because he went he got an injunction from some lawyer. So
the Gawker treatment, right? Remember that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They print it and the book comes out and people buy it and they can read it, and maybe in 3 months it trickles down to him. Hey, dude says you tried to run him down, and then we can deal with that at the time, but at least the book is out. So do not paint pictures of the devil on the wall, at least before you got something to sell, I guess.
At least make sure they get out to shops first.
Yeah.
The U.S. defense industry playing a role in this was interesting.
Yeah, man. Well,
I didn't have
especially
that on my bingo card.
especially if you consider that my first boss
Mm-hmm.
at Defense Electronics Magazine, which is what you're referring to,
Mm-hmm.
got pulled into the whole Iran-Contra story. So we had become part of a national news story. And my boss before last also got arrested by the Justice Department and is now looking at a 30-year sentence. So if you look at these bookends of my professional experience in Silicon Valley, it's
that's right.
crazy.
Sure.
It's absolutely crazy. Yeah, you've met me at that office.
I have. We went to lunch
that's
when
right.
you were at Aussie. I forgot about
that's,
that. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right. That's a big deal, man. I mean, it's the sentence he's looking at is 30 years. So
Yeah.
where the guy George Naranchi in the Iran-Contra thing, I think he skated on it. But those names that people read about, General Singlaub, Oliver North, those names in the office were not. They were like Oliver, John,
Yeah.
they were on a first name basis in Naranchi. People, I mean, it's hard to understand from this vantage point. I know a guy, Jim Spilker, who ran this company called Stanford Telecom. So he's a bona fide genius. So he's sitting there at a meeting, and this is after Reagan was writing all these giant checks for SDI, Star Wars. And somebody from the government stands up and says something that violates at least two of the laws of thermodynamics. And he's in the audience laughing his ass off. And he looks to the left and to the right because he's like thinking that the other PhDs are going to be laughing. And he goes, they were all enraptured. He goes, they had to know. And I said, come on, you can't smell the money? If somebody with $1 billion says they're leprechauns in space and I'm going to give you $1 billion to find them, of course you're raising your hand. Fuck it.
Yeah, great.
Everything
Sounds awesome.
I know tells me there are no leprechauns in outer space. But if he wants to pay $1 billion for me to find them, I'm taking the $1 billion.
I'm into it. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Of course, take the money.
Yeah,
That's
So that's the time that, this is the 80s and the Reagan years. And it was strange then, right? Me being a hardcore punk, I worked at a defense magazine, but this is the days before the internet. Had they known who I was, I probably wouldn't have gotten that job.
Well, and now it's like not even just everybody's on background for everything. It's just, it takes like 3 seconds to do it. So,
but I was a protest hire. The two cats were Germans from Argentina.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know, but the Japanese head of HR had declined to hire a qualified black woman because she didn't want to ruin the tenor of the office. And they were so angry about this that they said they were going to find somebody. So on my resume, I had 2 resumes out.
Yeah.
I don't know. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I had 2
we're
resumes out. Yeah, and one resume was had listed that I was a member of the Black Students Union, and I never got any bites off of that. And then the other one, it was just a generic, you don't know, racially indeterminate. But the Black Students League one, which I was a member of, the guy saw it and they go, "This is the guy." Like the line from Mulholland
Drive.
Falls.
Yeah. This is the
Mulholland
girl.
Drive.
Yeah.
This is the guy, and they brought me in, and she ended up being one of my biggest fans, and they hired me on the spot. So
that's awesome. I mean, it's surreal, but it's one of the things that makes the book interesting because it's kind of like a left field turn, right?
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily, or maybe not left field, but you know what I mean. And one of the things I liked a lot, and I haven't seen this in a lot of other books, is there's clear expressions and well-written expressions of aspirational goals and kind of wanting to leaning into why creativity matters and why it like basically changed your life. And I find that to be something lacking in a lot of books of very creative people. They get down on the on the love life a little too much, or they stick around too long in the childhood with playing with the next door neighbor or something along those lines. But I like that there's talk of not only of creativity, but why it was important to you and how it ultimately changed your life. And was that something that would just kind of flow naturally, or was that something where you had to articulate it and make sure that it came out the way you wanted it to be?
No, I tell you, despite what the movies would show you, which is just, it's always a mockery of a travesty of a sham when they have a movie that involves journalists or writers. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just mentioned that, and I'm sure now you have a sense memory of the guy crouched over the typewriter and he's balling up paper and throwing it in the corner. He's having these intense fingers to the head thing as he looks off. It's not that way for me at all. It's like, it is the happiest time of my day when I can sit, and it's usually, knock on wood, pretty effortless. And some guy interviewed me from the UK, and he said, I read A Long Slow Screw, and it was heavy and depressing.
Yeah.
And then about halfway through, I had a moment I had an epiphany. And I go, what was your epiphany? And he said that it was supposed to be funny. And I go,
hey, at least he got it before it was over, right?
Exactly. I go, yeah. They said about Kafka, and I'm no Kafka, but
Sure.
They said about Kafka that that his books are pretty kind of dour, but he laughed his ass off. He was very amused at what he was writing, and I'm pretty much in the same position. Right, I spelled wrong. A Long Slow Screw. A lot of those stories grew out of my time in this kind of mafia mob affiliated gym out in border Brooklyn in Queens. And those guys telling those stories were laughing their asses off, no matter how terrible they were.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Even Sonny Liston's former sparring partner who murdered the guy in the street. I mean, it was funny the way he told the story, like he said the guy was talking salty to women, and I don't like that kind of stuff. I told him, go fuck yourself. And the guy said, you go fuck yourself. You gotta do. So he walks and he punches the guy through the car window.
Yeah.
And the guy's head bounces back and gets cut on the jagged glass. And so he said, yeah, I tried to apply pressure so the guy didn't bleed to death. So I said, yeah, so you didn't go to jail. What are the cops? Why are they busting your balls? He goes, well, I applied pressure with my foot.
Which is funny. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
To my sensibilities, that's funny. I mean,
and I laughed at the time, and the guy gave me this look where, like, I wasn't sure whether he meant to be funny. I wasn't sure whether he was offended that I thought it was funny. I wasn't sure whether he had a dark sense of humor. It was impossible to get a read on him, and that's something else I learned with these cats. These like really, really bad guys I hung out with. They were not so easy to read, which is good for them in the business they're in, but bad for them if you're like affiliated. And I mean, I almost got murdered there, and I talked about it in the book.
Yeah, that is
you got to be. This is why people in those situations, there and in prison, they have one thing that normal people don't have, and these guys are exceedingly polite and careful and considered, because you don't know.
Yeah, it's not going to be an action out of passion. It's going to be a calculated maneuver after every possible possibility has been
what I call
what
I call Sicilian style. A friend of mine was involved in politics in San Francisco, and there was some guy who had screwed with him. And so what he did is whatever commission this guy was on, he got on the commission with the express purpose of stymieing whatever that guy wanted.
It's like a spite house, but
he did it for 6 years until the guy finally tapped out and said, "Fuck this, I quit." Yeah. And the day the guy quit, the next day my guy quit. And what did he get from Gavin Newsom? He got an award for a service award from Gavin Newsom, the governor of California.
Yeah.
So, but that's not why he was there. He was there to get back at this guy and to make his life miserable, which he did for 6 years.
Yeah, revenge is a dish best served cold, as they say. Right?
No, actually, what he says is revenge is the best revenge. So, yeah, but he's Sicilian, so that's why I call it the Sicilian way.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's absolutely. I think that there's a lot at this day and age for 2023. That fight book was, I think, had taken on a life that is beyond a lot of the things that are happening to it. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact, the timing, etc. I mean, do you still get, I assume, young men coming up all the time wanting to talk specifically about that book or something in that book, be it at shows or at the spoken word things or just on the street?
The last person that came up to talk to me about was a 57-year-old mother of two, and that happened like 6 hours ago.
That's awesome.
And so, you know, I in a weird turn in terms of tour readiness, I've been taking CrossFit. And the guy who runs CrossFit is a friend of mine, a guy I do jujitsu with. He said, "Come on by, I'll train you for the tour." I go, "Perfect." And he's got a class of normal people, but he's let slip because I don't bring this stuff up ever. So he let slip that Eugene's a writer. So she went down on her own time, went and found the book, bought the book, and read it, and was like, came in today and was like, "My God, this is great. You're a great writer." She goes, if you weren't, I wouldn't have brought it up. I would have just kept it to myself, but I just have to say, and she's quoting stuff to the book for me. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I did write that." So that, and then I've actually done jujitsu with guys who, like, 3 months later, they were like, "I got your book."
Right. Yeah, like
I never made the connection between the guy who was choking me and the guy who wrote the book.
Who literally wrote the book on fighting.
Right. Well, no, one of the guys who was like that. I haven't beat him in 4 years, so much for being a well-respected authority. He's very good. So, you know.
Well, and that's, I mean, if I remember correctly, I mean, that's like 15 years ago, right? So that's like not even the Obama era. That was still like
2007.
Very tail end of Bush. Yeah.
2007.
That's a while ago, my friend. That was a hot minute ago.
Yeah.
And again, it kind of hit at that time where there was a certain cultural cachet for things like along those lines, you know, Vice.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting. That Tobias Nagley, who was the editorial director at the Military Times, so that's Navy Times, Air Force Times, Marine, massive publishing company. They just do, you know, in-house for all of our America's armed services.
Right.
So he did a 2-page spread, had a 2-page spread done on me and the fight book, and I thought perfect audience for that. The mail after that was, "How dare you compare the proud men and women of the U.S. Navy, you know, with these tattooed, you know, essentially tattooed homos rolling around on the floor, choking each other." And I was like, you know what? Now, 10 years hence, even 5 years hence, by 2012, the Navy and the Air Force and the Army are sponsoring UFC events. You know, they're doing this fighter thing, giving them cage side seats. And I was like, where's my apology? Where's my apology for being an early adopter, you pricks? You know,
it is crazy to think about, but at that time there was that specific resistance to UFC, which is that it was somehow vaguely homoerotic, which was like, what are you talking about? Like, what? Like, do you understand?
But it went deeper than that. I knew somebody who was head of sales at Showtime or HBO, and they specifically, you forget that John McCain's wife, he was taking a lot of money from Budweiser, and Budweiser was all in, and they had this unspoken, unwritten agreement that because they were behind boxing and backing Showtime boxing, that they wouldn't cover any mixed martial arts event. And that's where McCain was like, "Oh, it's human cockfighting," and they were arresting people at events. You know, it was only when the Fertittas bought it and they started lobbying, which means greasing palms, that it made it possible for the sport to get legitimized, right? So it was a lot of resistance back then, and people were having to go on casinos to do it, and they were busting up the fights and trying to arrest people. But, you know, I'm not a big fan of the CEO of the UFC, but he and the Fertittas did actually legitimize it, by which I mean paid all the right people. But I mean, it was a government issue, and nobody was human cockfighting is what they called it. So there was a strong chance that it could have been drummed out of existence. So,
and it's so wild too, because it's something that there's always that resistance from, you know, when someone's got a monopoly. Look at was it the XFL, right?
Yeah,
like that was the thing they tried to make happen.
I mean, legally they've been suing, trying to get them to protect the fighters under the Ali law, and they've resisted that. So this week has been a big week where this class action suit against the UFC, the government said can go ahead with it. They're gonna pay attention to it. So the UFC now connected to Endeavor, which used to be William Morris, owned by Ari Emanuel, brother of Rahm Emanuel. Massive also owns WWE. There's a lot of legal precedent, and they're going to have to make some serious changes, as well as probably have to pay people off. But that's fine. They're billionaires. They should have been doing. No other no other sport organization kicks back less than 50%, and they've been kicking fighters 13% of the total take for years.
Scandalous.
13%. You know.
Yeah, that is just unconscionable. I mean, like,
Yep. Massive.
well, it's just like what is with the writers and actors strike.
Capitalism. Yeah.
Like, I mean, the writers and actors strike, where
Yep.
it's like they everything's been operating under the we'll see if this internet thing is a fad or not sort of rules for like years, and it's like, man, your thing is a pivot to like content, and these people are like, it's crazy that like someone that like wrote one episode of Friends is going to be able to make a living, but like, you know, someone that makes like the most genius show you've ever seen is going to be like SOL because of this like temp agreement. It's ridiculous. It's utterly preposterous.
Yep. Well, I mean, the name of the game is that, you know, it's like they got to say no, and they got to I mean, it just would be nice. You're only making the lawyers rich. Come to an accommodation before it gets to being dragged to an accommodation, but that's not how business works. So.
Well, and they flat out said we're gonna keep doing this until that like people are about to lose their house. It's like, well, first of all, you think anyone's buying a house on a writer's salary? You got enough to think of.
Well, but that's the only thing. That's the only thing that's good about LA, and that's that it. You know, success there is so episodic that you can still get houses for cheap because
that's true.
People go up and then they lose it, so you can still, you know, where in the Bay Area it was hard to do that because you got a whole shitload of stock options, and you know, you buy a house and you're set. You know, you got your stock and you're. You know, so this is a different deal.
That's why that and the Panama Papers is why like property values never went down. It's like, people are literally using it for money laundering. Now that makes sense because there was like already a tech crash and like but nothing went down. And it's like, well, that's why, you know.
Right.
But that's obviously that's a different podcast. But it still pisses me off, and it still pisses me off. It wasn't more newsworthy when it's like, if you ever live in the Bay Area, you'd be like, God damn, something is not like lining up here. Like, what is the deal? And it's like, oh, that's it. Okay.
You know, a friend of mine was sitting at a table with a bunch of Google engineers, and the topic of conversation had turned to tipping.
Sure.
And they were like, since when do you have to pay 20% of a fucking tip? Are you crazy? And they're complaining about it. And at one point, my buddy sitting at the table starts doing the math. And one of the guys at the table, he's making $70,000 a month. Not a year, $70,000 a month.
Wow.
And he's complaining about kicking back 20% tip for a fucking hamburger. And so my buddy couldn't take it anymore. And he finally said, all I'm hearing is a bunch of rich guys complaining.
Yeah, because it's like, and that's, you know, that they say, right? That's how they got rich, right? Because they're cheap as hell in every other aspect of their life. Then they're, I mean, my new favorite thing was the guy who wanted to like do like an Uber for books, and someone's like, "Oh, you mean a library?"
Yeah, man. But you know, that's what's the Bay Area is so disgusting. We were in some bar, and some guy's like, "Hey," actually, this was during the tech portion of South by Southwest. And he's like, "Hey, let me tell you about my app." I said, "Man, I don't give a fuck about your app. I don't want to hear it." He goes, "No, I'll tell you about my app." Okay. You know what? Go ahead. You got your 20-second pitch. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What does the app do? He goes, "The app tells you what bar you're in." I said, you know what else tells me what bar I'm in? My eyes. My eyes tell me what bar. Get out of here with that, you know?
Oh, amazing. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Well, some guy as a skit did this thing for me. When I was running the Digital Cinema Festival for Adobe, he did this thing on ice.com where a guy started a company called ice.com. And I think I gave him an honorable mention because I thought, you know, it was amusing conceptually. Yeah. But after that, there was a real company called at the start.
It was.
Yeah, because it's like, are you just making an expensive drink and you're just using the shitty ice cubes from your refrigerator?
Yeah.
What kind of water are you using for your ice cubes? Because this is eventually going to be something that you consume. So yeah, there was a virtual kind of like ice.com out there. People were paying good money for purportedly ice cubes from Norway.
Yeah, there's what's the Tom Waits song?
You're kidding me, man.
A lot of money out there giving it away.
Yeah, exactly right. That's right. Yeah. Well, you know what? You know, I know a guy who put in the sound system at Sean Penn's house, and he was telling me about the speaker cable he put in. It was like $2,000 a foot. I go, bullshit. That's what a fucking moron. He goes, oh yeah, come to the showroom and listen to it before you say that.
Yeah.
So I went to the showroom and I listened, and I have to say, It was phenomenal, man. Maybe Norwegian ice is the way to go. You know,
I mean, I guess I'm just passing judgment. Yeah, I don't. That's a good point. That's
Or somebody,
about.
a friend of mine sold some sheets to Madonna, and I
Uh-huh.
go, what kind? When she actually, weirdly enough, was married to Sean Penn, and they were arguing. Well, Sean Penn was arguing about whose credit card was going to pay for these super expensive sheets, and they were like Egyptian blend, like some crazy thread count. It was.
Yeah.
I've been sleeping on the same one since I was like 10. What do I know about this stuff? So,
Sure.
and the woman who sold it, woman sold it. She was a friend. I go, was it really? She goes, heavenly. You touch these sheets, you will never go back there. And I was like, well, I'm not spending $6,000 for a sheet.
Yeah, it's not really an option, but
yeah.
It must be nice if it's you have that available to you.
Yeah.
Back over to the book, Lydia Lunch for the forward, perfect. By the way, because as far as like fellow travelers go, talking about someone that's like uncompromising, has her own path. That's like maybe.
Hey man, I
was
shocked and surprised that we got like Harley did one.
Yeah.
Thurston Moore did one. Jimmy Israel did one. He's got a book out on Denzel Washington, which I really dig. And everybody was really nice and complimentary, which was completely different from the fight book when me arguing with Norman Mailer and so on,
Right,
Lydia Lunch is my big sister, man. I've been obsessed with her for a long time, so it was really nice that she said she would do it and did it.
Yeah, and that's it's a buy-in, right? It's also like these folks are saying like, hey, maybe if you were going to give this a miss, like checking it out, and that's always worth doing, even if you think it's already like stitched up. Right. Like,
well, I guess we're going to be at Powerhouse Books in Brooklyn, where she's going to be interviewing me sometime in October. Nice. I think October 23rd. It hasn't been announced yet, so this is the first public mention of it. But that will be totally cool. I'm beyond excited about this.
That's awesome. Yeah, I need like a breaking news kind of like.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Maybe that's why I don't often get credit for breaking news on this show. Sorry, that's all.
Yeah, man, you gotta get the sound effects.
Exactly.
It's great, right.
This is known.
Right.
Do you think that what a lot of the stuff you're writing about, like punk rock back in the day, none of that stuff was like documented the way it is now. Like now you just can fire up your phone and like, oh yeah, what's so-and-so sound like? Oh, there they are last night playing it, wherever. And it's almost like hardcore folk tales or something, right? Where it's like,
which and the coloration of those has been sort of irksome to me, right?
Yeah. Folk tales change and grow.
Well, because and I make this claim about Rollins that he, everybody talks about his writing like it's confessional. Well, confessional, really? You don't learn anything about Henry from reading Henry's books, right?
Yeah.
You don't, in actual fact. Like the real Henry, he's telling you what he's thinking about within a very narrow context, but he's like not talking about who he talks to. It's a very different autobiographical take, and it's completely affected how people from that scene tell their stories. And I really wanted to, like, there's a public claim made by Ian MacKaye that I extorted $100 out of him. And he does it in a movie about Midwest hardcore. And if you were expecting me to deny that claim, you'd be absolutely wrong. Of course I did it, and I'd do it again. but being able to tell a story in its totality. I mean, he presents it in the movie like, like it's all the scene. I'm the scene guy with the scene guys. We had a great steed, and then in floats this Cain versus I guess Abel, and says he would play for free, but then changes his mind and says, "Give me that $100." And I mean, that's I guess if I was still playing by the old rules, that I would be shamed by the story. But anybody who knows me knows, bro, if there's money on the table and my hands reaching for it, I'm taking it. I'm taking it. And he didn't have to give me the money. He could have just said, had the strength of character, said, "Fuck you, Eugene. I'm not giving you a nickel." That was a deal. And I wouldn't have hated him for it. I would just gone, all right, you're right. That was a deal. but he folded.
Right.
So the fact that 25, 35 years later, he's still talking about it is mind blowing to me. So I had to add, I would do it again tomorrow. I haven't changed that much either.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, there's a strain through hardcore, certainly, of rectitude and this idea that, is it like we're all kind of junior politicians. Like, you don't want to say anything that, they want to. But at this point, what's going to happen? I tell you that Biafra's wife was a hot bitch who I really wanted to fuck. What's Biafra going to do? Was he going to beat me up?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't even know if I put that in or whether I edited that out at the last minute. But she was, and she ran off with Frank's discussion. And that always killed me because like I was there too, is me and Frank, between me and Frank discussion. Really? You chose Frank discussion over me. I'd have run away with you, So, but all of this stuff is like sort of in politics to talk about. I don't give a shit. Nobody I'm talking about is going to beat me up or they're going to not buy my records, not go to my shows. I'm going to go to the show and they're going to snub me. I don't, I'm on the spectrum with that kind of stuff. I wouldn't have noticed if it happened anyway. So,
right. Well, you're too busy doing the work. You're too busy doing your stuff, and you're too busy, like not worrying about any of that. And again, not a lot of these books. I shouldn't say that. I feel like there's a penchant for myth making that kind of comes naturally when you're putting things to paper, right?
That's to be avoided. That's exactly. There's a temptation, and you got to fight that temptation, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not writing for a 17-year-old who like thinks, oh man, that hardcore stuff was so cool. I wonder what it was like. No. I'm not writing for him. I'm writing for me. So,
well, you can like smell it in the writing, It's where it's like the fact that like, these places where people have them lionized to be like these, gossamer ivory palaces. Like,
hey,
tell
me something. Somebody mentioned it today, and I was thinking, oh yeah, because he was a fan. He liked my voice, which I found out way too late to do anything about. But have you read Lanigan's book?
Yes.
Is that good?
It is. It is good. But I'm sort of pissed because I had him on the show. Glad to have him on the show. Like he was great. I got told over and over, it's like, oh man, he's a hard case, man. You gotta watch yourself with him. Like if you lose him, he's gone. I had him laughing. We were like hooting it up. It was a good old time. But I had him on for some reason before the book came out. I don't remember why. And so like then I kept going back and forth with him, like, hey man, come on again. Like let's talk about this book because it's like, and there are things that are not myth making so much as what's the nicest way I can put this? When you partake of certain substances, your recollection isn't necessarily the objective memory.
The unreliable narrator. All right, okay, I like that.
So there's a bit of that, but it flows so nicely. He's got this reputation as a gunfighter, right? And like, there's that too. But it's like, no, he's a pretty personable dude. Ultimately, it comes down to it, and like thoughtful. And even when he's being unfair, he'll like be like, yeah, that's probably kind of a dick about that, like. And it's like, oh, okay, we got the self-awareness to know that's something.
I've always liked him. I've never been a super huge fan of their music, but I always liked him, especially when I found out he liked my voice. And I was like, okay, we have like a little bromance. I mean, we never spoke face to face as far as I know, but I like the idea of him. So I was actually saddened when he died.
He was a real artist, basically. And I say that as someone that like Screaming Trees mostly missed me. Same. Yeah.
It
was fine. I wasn't mad at it, but I wasn't going to seek it out either.
Right.
But that record, Blues Funeral, amazing. And like he's got at least 2 or 3 other records that are different shades of badass. And they don't sound like all the same. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And he would do things like he did that record with like Isabel Campbell, which is like wildly different than shit he did with Greg Dooley, not Greg Gooley.
Yeah, Greg Dooley. Yeah.
And all of that, like, it dawned on me, I was like, oh, this guy just like, he likes this Creighton stuff, and he's just like found his perfect vision of self, like somewhat late in life. And that's kind of that's empowering, I think. And there's
some people like who their reputation, and I just go like, I wonder what that guy's like, and I seek them out, right? Like, who's the cat from U.S. Maple?
Al Johnson.
Al Johnson. And I said, hey man, we should do a song together. Like, sure. I'll sing one for U.S. Maple, and you sing one for Oxbow.
Sure.
And he was not at all into that. And I finally figured out that he was viewing it through a competitive lens. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what's going to happen is they're going to review it and it'll be like, well,
this one's better.
Yeah, exactly. And I go, so maybe I should have done it another way, but I just like what he does with his voice so much.
Yeah.
I really want to meet him. So that was catastrophic. I've not had a good run meeting other singers. And I remember the first time I talked to Jira, when I think I wrote about in the book, he was like, you motherfucker, I'll fucking fuck you up. Click, hung up the phone. That was the first conversation. I said, hi, this is Eugene. Went right into the motherfucker, I'll fuck you up. Called me back, continue. And the only other time that's happened like that has been with Max Roach, the jazz drummer. You know,
wow.
Who's actually threatening to kick my ass, hanging up, calling back and telling me, and Max Roach was already like 79 when this was happening. I was like, Max,
sure. Doesn't matter.
You know, tell me, you motherfucker. I was like, oh, okay. But when I met Jira, finally, we did Beyond the Pale Festival together.
Man.
It's perfectly personable. And then his wife's band, I think Information Society is what they were called. We played together at Brownies right after 9/11. And he showed up and was a perfect gentleman. Face to face, he's been perfect. Our first several conversations on the phone were not cool, you know. But I mean, for me, I'm not easily excitable, so it was just more funny. It's like,
it's kind of wild when someone goes off. Like you usually would, like, oh, well, that guy's gonna be mad, you know, just like, and like, oh, well, this guy's just coming in hot for some reason.
Yeah,
okay.
But some people, they were like, man, what is your, like 15 years old going to CB's or Max's Kansas City? You know, weren't you afraid? And I said, you gotta understand, I was a competitive teenage bodybuilder who was working out with mafiosi. What? Some guy who taking too much Dilaudid. What the fuck was he gonna do to me?
I think I'm gonna be all right, son.
I've been carrying weapons everywhere I go since I was 13, like everywhere. Even now, in bed, I am armed. And at one point, you know, the wife was like, "Hey, you think maybe you could come to bed one time without a weapon?" I go, "Nope." And that was into that conversation.
Yeah, there you go.
You know,
sorry,
you just never know when shit's gonna hit. I mean, and that's the thing, the weird two-step of growing up in New York in the 70s. It's rare for me to put a key in a lock and not look around before. I don't want to get pushed in. I don't want to get. Man, they stabbed my fucking milkman. You know, they stabbed the milkman have. You know, in Brooklyn, some junkies, Brooklyn in the 70s stabbed the milkman. I was like, fuck this, man.
$1.50 and some half and half if you're lucky. You know,
yeah, exactly. They got $7 from the guy. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's always interesting when I talk to people, because usually when people are from an area, that's just like the area that they're from, and then they you know, New York people love to talk about New York more than anything in the world. They'll talk about New York all day long, twice on Tuesdays, right? And then you know, Bay Area people love to talk about Bay Area. This, you know, I'm guilty of that myself, even though I live in Milwaukee now. But I find it interesting that you have a lived experience from like both sides of the coast, right? They like different parts of life, to be clear, but like a different lived experience at a different time.
Well, it was funny. I used to be obsessed with X.
Sure.
And one year, and I think this was 82 or 83, everywhere I was, they were. So I went to see them. I saw them in LA, saw them in San Francisco, saw them in Boston, saw them in New York, saw them in DC. And probably at the third show, John Doe looked out at me and was like, "What the fuck?" And I just looked at him and shrugged. It was like, "Hey, I like you guys." You know, so I was like at the 930 Club in DC. All these scenes, you know, I you know, because I had family in DC. You know, my girlfriend was up in Boston at the time, so the only place I'd never got a feel for was Philly, and that's because the Whipping Boy show there got flooded out, or no, the club was bombed. So locals bombed the club, so we canceled it. But otherwise, in Midwest, hanging out with the guys from Killdozer and nearby in Madison to where you are. You know, Krusty's, D. Kreutzen, I was friends with Dan. So we were, and Tom Hollowell, Tom Headbanger, who was in Denver, is now.
Kabinski's still playing. The Crosses do like the first EP and album of De Kreutzen, and their new songs kind of sound like that. At first, I was sort of like, "Yeah, man, I don't know about that," but then I was like, "All right, no, it's cool." And it's like, if you never got to see those records, you know, Jesus.
I love all, and then the whole Sacramento thing with Pusshead. It's like, yeah, it happened from 80 to 84 when I was in college and had a lot of free floating time. Didn't have to have a permanent employment. So I spent a lot of time in LA with the guys from Circle One, the lads, the LA Death Squad. So yeah, it was, I mean, with or without Whipping Boy, I was traveling and supping on these scenes wherever I could. So,
but it's not mythologized in a way of it, again, being all like through like rose-colored glasses or anything at all. That's what I like about it. I mean, not that I expected that, to be clear, but
no,
but
I
is
didn't
laudable.
Well, there wasn't even any intention for me to either go that way. I mean, it just because I don't, I mean, who does that? Guys who are no longer in the game. They do that. It's like this is the commercial trope where the guys are calling the other old guys like, "Hey, man, let's get the band back together, man." If you haven't left, and I pretty much haven't left, it's like, I don't. Rosy glasses, nothing. People say you got to come back to Denver. I go, oh, Denver. You mean the place where they robbed me for $2,000? That place back in 2002? That Denver? Yeah. Oh, so yeah, I've got a long memory for this stuff, and I'm still doing it. I've not stopped. So, I mean, I kept thinking I should stop, and then I kept thinking I would stop, and then I realized, much like P. Diddy, can't stop, won't stop. So here I am.
Well, and
you and I met. When did we meet for the first time?
Dude, I think it was it was with Replicator, and I want to say it was like probably like 25 years ago or something, right?
Yeah,
it has to be at this point.
Yeah. So we're talking 1998.
Yeah.
Jesus, madness. Right?
Yeah, and it was just honestly like that was just like me like trying to find other bands that were sort of like flying their freak flag and doing something different because I just found everything else boring and abhorrent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Coming up next week, boring and abhorrent. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the deal, right? It's like you find your people, and I think that's something that's kind of encouraging about this book too. Is like it has these tableaus, right? But it's also about how you find your people and what that means to you, and it's nice to see it unadorned. I guess is the best way I could put it.
It was interesting. Some guy interviewed me today, and he's like, "Hey, I'd like to talk about your relationship with violence." and it's always accompanied by, preceded, or immediately followed by a certain kind of quality of humor.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I said, yeah. Well, you clued into something that my wife is clued into, and she's put it into a phrase that makes a lot of sense, because just because Eugene's smiling doesn't mean something good is going to happen. And I said there's a difference, and for maybe those who are just listening now, not looking, I have my hand under my nostrils now.
Right.
So if the mouth is smiling and the eyes are not smiling, if the eyes are not smiling, but the mouth is smiling, you got to understand, listen, in subhuman primates, this is a warning.
Yeah.
If the eyes are smiling too, then you just, and I had some beat up these guys and I have had my ass kicked many a time. So this is not the hagiography of, Eugene, the fantastic fighter. I've had my ass kicked plenty of times. So,
sure.
My overreactive approach to this is informed by having had my ass kicked. And some guy was like, using racial invective, and I said, whoa. If you want to fight with me, you don't have to lower yourselves and embarrass both of us. All you have to do in this instance is one more thing. And he goes, what's that? Say one more word to me. And then it's very simple. We'll be fighting.
Yeah.
And he spit at me, threw a can at me, and said, come on, bitch. And so I viewed that as a teachable moment. And I was smiling. Actually at the time too. I was like, all right, you got me. That's good. Okay.
The phrase I like for that, for the smiling doesn't mean something good's happening. Smiles that never reach the eyes.
Yes, that's right. What song is that from?
I don't know. I thought I just coined
Tinder
it.
Sticks.
Okay. Is it Tinder? Oh,
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
There goes the dream of using that myself. God damn it.
Off of Curtains.
That's
a song.
Okay.
Smile that never reaches the eyes. Yep.
It makes sense that I heard that somewhere and magpied it because that's too good to not not be used up somewhere.
At this point, when something hits you like that, you just got to go to Google and check
and just
it
search
out.
it immediately.
Just search it, man, because you don't want to get caught. That's what some guy was calling his band the Oxbow Quintet, Frank Rosali, and I was Frank. What are you doing? He said, "Oh shit, I'm sorry. I actually know you guys. I'm a fan." I was like, "Yeah,
must be a huge fan." Yeah.
try calling yourself the Roll. I just didn't think of it. Try calling yourself the Rolling Stones Quartet. That's not gonna fly.
See how long that lasts.
Yeah, man, you will be injunct. There will be an injunction against you.
I never thought I'd meet Mick Jagger, and I certainly didn't think it'd be under these circumstances. Yeah, exactly. In court. That's what I'm talking about.
No shit. Yeah, I was in a restaurant in Palo Alto, and they said something Jagger, and I'm Jagger. What? Oh, he's sitting there, but he had a table by the bathroom. I was like, Jesus Christ! Thought you could rate a little better than that, but he wanted some privacy, I guess. And the thing that was most amazing about Jagger that I thought was how incredibly tiny.
Not a big dude, not a like tall guy. Like he's got the shoes, but even then.
Yep. The only celebrity that I've interviewed that has been taller than I expected was Samuel Jackson, who is taller than Billy Bob Thornton.
Really? That's surprising.
Yeah. Yep. So there you go. I'm obsessed with celebrity height. So you should know that this is
it's your passion, really. The rest of this
is my thing. Yeah. This is my thing, celebrity height. So
as a man of 5'8", I appreciate that, hearing all the skinny and all this stuff because, I just want to know what I'm getting into here. Like, what shoes am I wearing?
Well, I bet you used to be longer 5'8", because I used to be 6'1.5", and I am no longer 6'1.5".
Shrinkage?
Fuck yeah, it's really weird, man. Really weird.
It's a good point. I haven't looked in a hot minute, man.
Like, it sucks. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. I after every workout now, I do like hangs on a chin-up bar. I'm trying to get back my 1.5 inches.
Stretch it out.
Yep.
Yeah, like the rack, right? Like they used it as a torture device before. Now,
I got a weight belt, and I put the dumbbell in the weight belt, and I hang for as long as my grip can hold it.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yep.
All right, yes. So you're giving this away for free too. This could be a whole.
That's
podcast
right. I got to get back to 6 feet, or six. Anywhere above 6 feet, I'm fine. 6.5, I'm okay, but I don't want to get below it. So,
how do you know? So again, the talk from this was like, hey, this doesn't need to be a completely comprehensive history of everything, inclusive of Oxbow. How do you know where to stop it though? Are you just like, hey, this it seems like a good place to stop, but I mean, how do you know where like, hey, this is enough for this? Like we're going to capstone this and maybe like do something else in the future somewhere else.
Well, I mean, there's nothing stopping me. Buñuel is a great antidote. It is like the anti-Oxbow in ways that if you've ever participated in the Planet Oxbow, it's incredibly difficult and unpleasant. And it has been and will never not be. People who somehow get a glimpse inside, it was like, how long have you guys been together? And you've been together like this? How is it possible that you managed to stay together? At this point now, we've said, well, it's familial. It's outlasted. Yeah. How many marriages? How many deaths? I mean, how many relationships? We got 10 Oxbow kids between us. So it's a thing. But, during the making of this record, I quit the band at least twice. I remember writing resignation letters because of Buñuel, because in every single way that Oxbow is unpleasant,
Right. I get it. Yeah.
For example, I'll give you something that just happened that I had to turn my phone off because it's happening. I said, hey, Nico, what's the address of your friend in Belgium? I want to send him some merch. And he's like, well, what merch do you want to send? More importantly, is it going to take up space on our merch table and rob us of money for things that we could use for Oxbow because you have some personal. Jesus Christ. Okay.
Sorry, I asked.
So we have these special, very high-priced puzzles, right? Like it's a really weird offering.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Special wooden box with this great etching on it. All the band side, they got the puzzle and the piece with a record and a book. It's a big, nice package. It's like $250 fucking dollars. Only 10 in the world, no more than that.
Right.
And but I think this was to preempt me putting, which has now been delayed, so it's not an issue, the memoir,
the book
on the fucking merch table. So we will have, there'll be 72, as of now, they're like 42 texts back and forth about it, and there will be more. And it's like, you know what? If it was with Buñuel, those guys would be happy to have the memoir on the table. They'd be happy. So in every way that Oxbow is difficult, Buñuel is great. And they both generate good music. So I'm like, why am I suffering with this Oxbow thing? But when I listened to our fucking music, I was like, oh, that's why.
That's right. Exactly.
That's like having a, it's like, having, there's a great SCTV skit where the guy, these like Russian peasants and the husband's railing at his wife. I don't even know why I married you. And then she kind of grabs her breast and she's like, yeah. He goes, oh yeah. So
that's the music in this case. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hate on Oxbow, but I listened to the music and I was like, I can do this with nobody else. The guys in Buñuel are super talented, but musically, if you've heard the records, they're very different. We're doing different things, different approaches.
It's almost more straightforward. I don't know if that's the best descriptor, but like, and I don't mind that. I mean, like, look, dude, I love straight.
No, that was the mission. That was the mission.
Yeah.
Buñuel came with a very specific mission, and we deliver on that mission. But those guys are all professional musicians and make their living through music. And Buñuel is a slice of pie in general of what they do. But for all of us, the rest of us in Oxbow is the only thing that we together. But I'm the only one who's doing books and doing Substacks and writing. So this is why to go full circle. This is why it was like we do all the interviews together because of my press thing. It's easier for people just to talk to, and I don't want to be the sole voice of the band. A lot of people put blood, sweat, and tears into it, but I keep doing it. I'm going to move. I'm leaving America, so
really, wow, that's the breaking news. Yeah.
End of next year, going to Spain. So I've like Jamie Stewart, who left the country already, said to me. He said, I want to stay ahead. I want to stay ahead of disaster this time. No, he's just in the last year that he's moved to Berlin. He's like, I'm out. Sold his house, gone. So, I mean, and during this last Buñuel tour in October, I met a lot of New York hardcore guys, like 2 in France and 2 in Italy. I'm like, what are you guys doing here? Can't afford to get old in America, man.
Oh, American healthcare system is doesn't have much in the way of actual healthcare. It's mostly just I mean, look, they make their profits denying claims, right? So
right.
Think of that what you
so
will.
I mean, so right now, I mean, you might have saved up a little bit of money, could live comfortably, don't get sick, and nobody can count on that. So and I've they're running gun battles in the street in front of my house now, so I'm kind of done. I'm at it. So
wow, yeah, that's heavy. Record is heavy, but not necessarily in a sound way. I'm liking it, man. I mean, I've only given me one I don't like so far, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, one guy, because I put up all the reviews, good or bad. I got this one guy who goes, "What the fuck, this dad rock?" And I was
rock.
I was like, man, it's not for you. It's not, it's like
it's not for you. Yeah.
I don't have too many extended conversations with 17-year-olds, though. I know more 17-year-olds than the average 61-year-old guy, just because of jujitsu.
Sure.
But half the stuff I say to the 17-year-olds who train jujitsu with me, they think I'm insane. They actually think like insane. Like the stuff, anything I could say, the most benign thing to their 17-year-old ears is like, the fuck? So what's his damage?
What's this guy's deal?
To expect them to expect somebody who's just not in the same headspace to understand. I mean, he's not saying the record sucks. He's saying I don't like it. Which join the other billions of people on the planet who won't listen to Love's Holiday. I'm perfectly okay with that. It's a justifiable opinion. So
it's a world's gonna keep on turning, man. It's all right.
Yep. I'm okay with you not liking it, but you got to understand. Everything that's on that record, we intended it to be exactly as it is. Yeah. There's no it's not a record of excuse. Well, if we had, or we could have done. No.
Right, if we...
Everything that's there, you listen to Gunnel and you go, oh, the choir sounds slightly off key in that third, but no. That was on purpose. Yeah, it was on purpose. So no mistakes. Like, what is that hip hop song? No mistakes allowed. So.
Well, and it's, again, I said thoughtful, right? There's a thoughtfulness to what you do that, again, given maybe your reputation from the fight book, people might chide that term, but there's a thoughtfulness to it. And that's...
But also process-wise, if you're still angry and upset about the stuff that you were angry and upset about 40 years ago, then this doesn't speak really well to your the process of your personal growth, right? So if you actually give a shit about the music's authenticity, that it's gonna change, right? I mean,
should.
Yeah, and
I love the Ramones, but I mean, like, Jesus, Johnny Ramone's whole thing about never practicing the guitar because he didn't want it to change. It was like, come on, dude, for real.
Well, and also, I learned from going from Sound of No Hands Clapping, the first Whipping Boy record, to Muru Muru, that people are very comfortable with genre stuff, but I wasn't. I mean, Muru Muru happened because I wrote a bunch of lyrics that I couldn't imagine sounding like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. It's just like. Had to have different music for these lyrics, and I'm not going to change the lyrics to appeal to somebody who has got an interest in this genre. Go fuck off with that. So
this is another Ciccarelli record, right? So
third one.
Yeah, it seems like you got a good thing going with him, right?
It's amazing. I tell you, when I was singing in the studio, I'm listening to my voice as I'm singing, and I can't believe it's my voice. Right. Like, I can't believe it's me singing. Like, I'm just a conduit to these forces, the Protonic triad working its way, true, beautiful, good, working its way through me. And I made mention of this to some guy who's a studio engineer, and he didn't hear the flowery stuff I was saying. He just didn't hear any of that. He was like, yeah, man, a good headphone mix can make all the difference in the world. I'm like, oh, maybe that was it, man. Maybe
that was it the whole time.
The headphone mix was so fucking great that I just couldn't believe it was me actually singing it. It caught and he's changed his mic array. It's been different for each record. And he usually has a special time where he just talks to me about, how are you hearing your voice on this? Like, thematically, if this is a theater piece, where are we? And so he's sat down half an hour, 20 minutes, really listen to me and go, gotcha. So it's interesting to look at the photos of him setting up my mics as I'm doing vocals. They're all slightly different placements, different mics. So
yeah. And they do hit different.
And moreover, I just bought it. He said, listen, I don't know. I practiced Tuesday. I practiced Thursday. Right. We did like 15 songs on Tuesday. My voice is not blown out. It's a really phenomenal mic. I'm not going to give the company props. Since when I was editor-in-chief of EQ magazine, I did a mic roundup and gave one of their mics. And one of the 10 of their mics that 9 I gave great reviews to. The 10th one I gave, it's kind of a prosumer deal. And they took me behind a baffle at a NAMM show. And I swear to God, had it not have been me, they would have punched me.
I was gonna say, you look for a switchblade,
yeah. So I didn't. I chose not. I'm not gonna rep their mic, but it's so phenomenal. It's great. It's made all the difference in the world, and being able to sing with it on tour, provided I don't lose it 3 shows in, it will be great. It'll be
so what honor. You froze literally when you said what it was. So what's the model?
He said get rid of the SM58 and use this one, and I'm not going to tell you what it.
Okay. You don't get knifed.
Fuck that guy. No, fuck that company, because they went hardball, man. They got 10 good reviews. They went hardball. They threatened to pull $80,000 of ads out of the magazine. It was a big deal, man. I had to meet with the vice president, and it was like, I said, you got 9 good reviews. They're like, fuck you. It was a deal. So, but I hate to say
the Sicilian way.
It's really phenomenal. I'll send you a picture. I'll send you a picture of it online just for your edification. But I'm not going to
appreciate that.
Props on it. Yeah.
Appreciate that and understood. Records Loves Holiday, oxbowofficial.bandcamp.com. Ipecac's doing this one. Fantastic. Great match. Love it.
Yeah.
Feral House is doing Walk Across Dirty Water and Straight into Murderer's Row. Available October 10th. I guess you could get it from like Amazon or whatever if that's your jam, but support independent bookstores. Go see the... If there's
you can pre-order the memoir now. If you hate Amazon, you can go to goodbookshop.org, I think, or bookshop.org. You can pre-order it there. And I only say this because people keep saying, people who know me, keep asking about the crazy years. In other words, after Oxbow. And I go, I don't talk about any of that. They go, are you going to? I go, well, if this one sells well.
Depends on if this one sells.
I might actually let me give you an example of the kind of stuff that has me nervous, right?
Yeah.
So I'm having an affair with this woman, and I know she's married. Mm-hmm. She's told me this, and then she says she begs off. We can't do this anymore. My husband found out. Also, there's something I neglected to tell you. I go, what's that? My husband's dying from cancer.
Ooh.
Okay. So I wouldn't have done this had I known that the husband was dying from cancer. His last memory is some video of me railing his wife. Okay, this sucks, right? I don't want to be him. I don't want to cause him this kind of pain. But what she hadn't told me at the time is the guy was like a big rugby player, right? Like, so all of his rugby buddies all found out about this, right? So now everywhere where I go, where they used to live, when we play shows there, it's like I'm like, okay, I got to keep my eyes open, right? Like, because I don't want to get. I would be justifiably waylaid, right? I would understand it 100%. So that's the kind of stuff where, like, in the second version, I go, I could probably leave that stuff out. That's the kind of stuff where, I'd like to put it in writing because there are moral shadings there, right? Like, okay, you would sleep with his wife if he wasn't dying from cancer, but he's dying from cancer. So somehow you have a moral understanding of the fact that this is subpar behavior. I mean, it's a meditation piece about sexual deportment, but I definitely didn't want it to be part of this memoir. So.
Well, it has the potential to hijack everything else too, because then it just becomes about.
Yeah, and I don't need people taking swings at me who I don't know. For shit that I should be hit for, but I know this is not right. So I'm sorry.
On that note,
you don't have to hit me for this,
On that note, Eugene, it's always a pleasure, man. I love having you on. Love the book, love the record. It's I look forward to hopefully seeing you at some point in some capacity in the somewhat immediate future.
We're talking about the Midwest now. So
all right, well,
we come through. At least we'll get a drink together or something.
I know a guy, man. I know a guy.
Yeah. There you go.
That's me.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. Eric, Jarvis knows you, so
we got a couple near misses. We'll get it together, man. We'll get it together.
All right, cool.
Eugene, take care. Be safe.
All right, Conan. Thank you.
Keep your eyes open.
All right. Yeah. Sure. Head on a swivel. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thanks, Conan. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
There he goes. The one and only Eugene Robinson. Hell of a guy. Oxbow, the book, I put the link in the show notes. I Walk Across Dirty Water and Straight into Murderer's Row. It's a great read, man. It's good. Highly recommended. Let's play out. This is 1,000 Hours off of Love's Holiday. Oxbow. It's 1,000 Hours. Loves Holiday. Available now at Ipecac Records, as well as oxbowofficial.bandcamp.com. That was Eugene S. Robinson. One of my favorite guests and favorite folks. Great dude. So the name of the show is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you ever so very much for listening to it. This show airs Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Streaming on YouTube and Twitch. Live, podcasted later for free, always. ProtonicReversal.com. Archives available. No ads, no sponsors. No kidding. Always free. But if you like the show, get episodes sooner, you can do that. $1 a month at patreon.com/ProtonicReversal will achieve that goal. A lot of people didn't notice the Steel Pole Bathtub episode. You know why? Because you're not a patron. That's why. It's coming to the general feed. Eventually. It's $1. It's $1 a month. $12. Think about like buying a record for the year, right? You know what I mean? It's definitely more hours of entertainment than that. Anyway, get off the soapbox. If you want to get the episode show and want to support the show and get episodes sooner, do that. But if you like the show, even just a single episode, feel free to subscribe on your platform of choice, share around the internet, even leave a review, you know? Some real cornball stuff to ask for, but it helps people discover the show and it beats back the algorithm. So that's the point of that. Bunch of stuff coming up. Conan Neutron the Secret Friends Lung Tour dates, October, West Coast. So if you're on the West Coast, I'm playing music, not just doing podcasts. Come see that. NeutronFriends.bandcamp.com.
50,000 watts of power.
Jason from Train Dodge next week, Monday. And then, if you know them, they're legends. And Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum. At least 2 of them. So, again, if you know, you know. That's what it comes down to. It's a quality content you can expect from Protonic Reversal.
Microphone turns sound into electricity.
What else? Anything else? I'm tired, man.
Can you hear me now?
Stay safe out there.
Out on Route 128.
Check you later.
Dark and lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Caller or any caller at all. welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on Earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency,